I'd like to call to order the West Covina Planning Commission meeting for July 9th at 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Menifee, and please remain standing for a few moments in memory of the 19 firefighters who gave up their lives for us in Yarnell.
Face the flag. Say with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Valle. Commissioner Menifee. Present. Commissioner Castellanos.
Present.
Chairman Holtz.
Present.
Commissioner Blackburn.
We have approval of the minutes of June 25th. Any additions or corrections? None? None. If so, stand approved, receive, and file. This brings us to oral communications. This is a time when any member of the public may speak to the Commission on any matter within the scope of duties assigned to the Commission. Other matters included on this agenda may be addressed when that item is under consideration. For all oral communication, the chairperson may impose reasonable limitations on public comments to assure an orderly and timely meeting. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the Planning Commission and staff's ability to respond to public comments at this meeting. Thus, your comments may be agendized for a future meeting or referred to staff. The Commission may ask questions for clarification if desired at this time. By policy of the Commission, oral communications at this time on the agenda is limited to a total of 15 minutes. Persons who are not afforded the opportunity to speak at this time may do so under item E later on the agenda. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak on oral communications? None? Okay. That brings us to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be acted upon by one vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the Planning Commission request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion or action. Forthcoming Planning Commission meetings and public hearings schedule. Does anyone even wish to remove anything from the consent files or speaking? All right. Okay, then we'll receive and file. Brings us to item number 3, conditional use permit number 13.
You do want to have a motion and a second on that.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Item 3 brings us to conditional use permit number 13-08. Planning Director's modification number 13-19, categorical exemption. Applicant is TAP Worldwide LLC, location 2249 East Garvey Avenue North, four-wheel parts. The request is for approval of a conditional use permit to allow an auto supply store with installation and approval of construction to convert a portion of the building into service bays. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes. As has just been stated, the applicant is proposing to open and operate an auto supply store that specializes in custom off-road parts and accessories. In addition, the applicant proposes to convert part of the existing building to service bays to allow them to install the parts and accessories that they sell on vehicles. The proposal will be located at the Covina Palm Shopping Center on the corner of Hollenbeck and Garvey Avenue. So you see the map before you here. There's the freeway. This is Hollenbeck going north-south. And you have Garvey going east-west. This is the tenant space that we're talking about. It is an 8,000 square foot tenant space, and there is, just to get an idea of what's around there, there is an apartment complex here and some residential housing to the east. The rest of the shopping center is here and the freeways to the south. The proposed business would be located in the end tenant space. The storefront on the western elevation would remain the same, so that's this elevation here facing the parking lot. This is the elevation facing the freeway. This before you is the elevations. The storefront on the south elevation will be converted to 5 service bays. The applicant is proposing to install decorative roll-up doors with glass panels, as the doors will be visible from the freeway. And the hours of operation will be Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So the upper one is the roll-up doors, and it's sort of faint here, but you can sort of see the outline of the building at the south elevation. Right now, this is basically the glass storefront. They're going to be removing the glass storefront, leaving in the awnings, and then putting in one, two, three, four, 5 roll-up doors. The proposal also requires the redesign of the parking lot. The 10 parking spaces being eliminated are located in front of the bays. So right here, there are 10 parking spaces right now that will be eliminated to allow for access to those bays. Based on the redesign, there will be 262 parking spaces provided in the center. And based on the proposal to convert the tenant space to service bays and to eliminate the parking spaces, the shopping center will continue to comply with parking requirements with the use proposed. The proposed off-road parts store and service bays require the approval of a conditional use permit and the approval of a planning director's modification to redesign the building for the service bays and to revise the parking layout. The shopping center has freeway visibility, but does not enjoy easy access from the freeway, making it difficult to attract tenants. The city has been assisting the property owner in marketing the site in an effort to attract tenants to fill the available tenant spaces. This particular tenant space has been vacant since 2012, the beginning of 2012, so about a year and a half. The city has been working diligently over the past several months to attract four-wheel parts to the shopping center, and they are one of the largest distributors of off-road parts and accessories in the country. The merchandise can be purchased at retail stores by phone or online, and four-wheel parts will occupy significant tenant space that will bring additional activity to the center and bring substantial sales tax revenue and new jobs to the city. The applicant is proposing to open and operate an auto supply store that specializes in custom off-road parts and accessories and includes the installation of new service bays. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit number 1308 and also approving Planning Director's modification number 1319 with the conditions that are listed in attachment 2 of the staff report. That concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Are there any questions of staff at this time? Mr. Menifee? None? Okay. We'll close the, open it up to public testimony. Does anybody want to speak on behalf of the project? I would ask before you leave that you fill out one of these cards so we have it and you can give it to the clerk. Thank you.
By way of introduction, my name is Darren Salvin. I am General Counsel, Vice President, one of the owners of Global Parts. My left is my Assistant General Counsel, Bobby Ray. Thank you for having us out. We're obviously very excited about this location. You marketed this site as being or your city as being very business friendly, and we've experienced nothing but that. That was a huge factor in our decision to hopefully have our 64th store in the United States in your city. We did look around at other cities, but I got to be honest, you guys are doing something right when it comes to working with businesses. We are a nationwide business, now international, with revenues well in excess of $500 million. We are here to stay for quite a while, employing 15 to 20 employees, with good revenues for the site, obviously buying local equipment, eating at local restaurants and the like. So we like to, to stay for a while, and our lease would indicate that we're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Obviously, at that corner unit, there's a lot of visibility on the freeway. We take that very seriously. If you've ever driven by or driven on the 405 in Redondo Beach, you'll see one of our other flagship stores right off the freeway. There's heightened responsibility when you're right off the freeway. We get that. You won't be disappointed because our actions and the way we look, the way we dress, the way we talk, you'll see it from the freeway, and it'll have a bad reflection on you if we're not, if we're looking like a bunch of crazy people running around not doing our jobs right. We get that. We have we have stores all over the nation, and a lot of them are right on the freeway. That's kind of what we look for. So I seek your permission to get the CUP. We're looking forward to this. Obviously, we're investing a lot of money in rebuilding the building a little bit the way we need it. And it just speaks to how long, we're hopefully going to be here. Many of our locations, we've been there 20 some odd years. We've been in business since 1961. Not every location was formed in 1961, but a lot of them were in the 80s, and they're still there. And we're LA-based. We're in Compton, California, so the whole nucleus is right there down the street. Some of the key officers live in Pasadena, San Gabriel Valley, right down the road. So we're hoping for a real nice partnership, and we appreciate your time. And Jeff has been magnificent, and your team working with us to get the various things to the commission. So I appreciate that. Like I said, some cities, I don't know what the problem is, but they don't want to really attract business, and it's hard. And I don't understand what the problem is, but here it's been delightful, and I really appreciate that. So do my employees. So.
We do intend for this to be one of our flagship stores. The plans all look fantastic. We're really eager to get going on it. As part and parcel of the presentation, we prepared just a general kind of short company overview. It's like a slideshow sort of PowerPoint in a binder. If you want me to leave it here or distribute it for your perusal, feel free. But just a little extra thing and show you guys a little bit about who we are.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? No questions of the applicant? I just have one, just a curiosity. I'm tickled to death that you're coming to our city. Did you look at the location that's on Citrus and Garvey? I think it was a paint store at one time. That's right on Citrus and Garvey, which would give you freeway access.
Yeah.
You did? There might be other issues. I don't know.
Yeah, we looked at a couple of sites. I believe that was one of them. This one is just, better.
Okay. I just was wondering.
And as the cornerstone, as the keystone to a shopping center that's, struggling, I think we're going to attract more business because you're going to see a lot of activity. You're going to see a lot, we work on new vehicles, not old junky things, new vehicles for the most part. There's a lot of good-looking men and women coming in and out with new vehicles. There's attention, and it tends to draw other people in and other businesses and the like. We've seen that. We've gone into other centers when we were the only guy left. When the recession in 08, 09, everyone fled town. We stuck it through because we're not highly leveraged. We're very cash positive. We stuck it through, and then other people filtered back in. We attract people. We don't scare them away. So we're hoping to do that here and have some nice partnerships with complementary businesses that we can all, make a fair buck in this country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one. Just out of curiosity, which make do you work on the most?
Ford.
Ford?
Ford F-150, and Ford and Jeep, they're kind of right up there.
Both
We
of them.
do probably 50% Jeep. Then the remaining, maybe another 40% Ford, and then Chevy, and then Dodge, and then Nissan, kind of in that order. Toyota is kind of there. The bread and butter is Jeep and Ford and Chevy. I mean, that's our bread and butter since 1961. We started with Jeeps, and then we worked to the other models.
That's awesome. And do you form partnerships with dealerships on just getting some on the lots that are nice?
Absolutely. We have an entire division called Dealer Services International. This is actually a good point that I should have mentioned before. We have an entire division called Dealer Services International. It's about $40 million a year. All we do is work with dealerships, taking their stock trucks, lifting them, putting the nice parts on. We deliver them back to their lot because when you go to buy a car, quite frankly, you want a cool car and not a stock car, and guys kind of gobble them up faster. So we have, and of course all those trucks are built at these stores. There's no separate DSI build centers. They're built at the four-wheel site stores. People don't really know that, but that's where they're built. So all the dealerships around town here and the surrounding area, those vehicles are going to be built hopefully right there. And you see a nice kind of a tricked out truck or Jeep on the lot, it sells faster than a stock. And you can kind of finance the package through the floor planning, with Ford or Chevy, so you can afford it a little bit better. The dealerships turn more vehicles. It's kind of good for everyone. It's a thriving, huge business of ours, is the dealership partnerships. And we do that not only in the United States, we also do that in Canada.
I think we have 200 dealership clients. It's something of that nature across the U.S.
Very good.
It's
Very
awesome.
good.
Yeah. We have wonderful insurance, I don't know if you need to know the limits, but they're extremely high because obviously I have shareholders and stakeholders to protect. So the insurance limits for be it workers' comp, general liability, auto, garage keepers, it's to say the number 50 million of insurance is a fair number. So we're overinsured, if that's a concern, because none of us want the unfortunate, but sometimes things happen, lawsuits happen. We are lawyers, I got to declare that. Some of our kindred, they go sue happy, so obviously we're not undercapitalized, we're overcapitalized, we're kind of overinsurance because it's part of our requirements from the board. So that's good too. The dealerships like that a great deal because we're the only ones that offer indemnity and full insurance packages and programs, and we warranty all of our parts. It's a big package we present, and the dealerships gobble it up because we're the only ones in America that do what we do.
Thank you.
Betty?
Betty?
Yes, good afternoon, or good evening.
Hi, good evening.
First of all, I wanted to welcome you into your new business that's coming into the city.
Thank you.
We're very pleased you're coming in. My question is that how many people do you think you're going to be employing?
We start off with about 15 to 20. So we would have about 4 to 5, 6 mechanics, the rest salespeople. Our staff is divided into two. The people that sell in the front counter to find men and women like you that come in that just want parts, and then the service technicians, the mechanics in the back. That flexes up and down depending upon the volume of the store. So by way of an example, some of our better stores, 6, 7 million a year in revenue. Some of the lower ones, maybe 2, 2.5. It just depends upon the flux. And we can, of course, flex up or flex down depending upon the need. But on average, it's about 15 to 20 full-time, fully insured, health benefits kind of people. We don't have temporary staff. We don't have contract workers. They're all bona fide employees of our company with offerings of, the health care and all that. We're still, we like to consider ourselves a family. It's still a family-run company since '61. We're not publicly traded. So we spend a lot of money on our people, our human resources, because everyone that sells a part is an enthusiast. They're not just someone taking your money and scanning a product. They know our products. They are off-roaders. They're outdoorsmen and women. So they like to work for us. And same thing with the mechanics. They all have trucks and Jeeps, and they all off-road. So everyone in the store has a vested interest in what we do because they do it, recreationally every weekend. That's what sets us apart from like an auto zone. No offense to them, but some other places, they don't know anything. They're just, 18-year-old kid making minimum wage. We pay well over minimum wage because people have careers with us, long-term careers. Our turnover is extremely low because in America, it's hard to find a real job with real money, with real benefits, and a real pension plan, a real 401k plan. It doesn't exist much in America, but we do. So people stay with us, and of course, we invest more into them because turnover is expensive. So we have a nice business model of we interview very carefully. We make sure we get the right man or woman, and then they stick because they like us. And so we're going to start with 15, 16, and hopefully balloon up from there.
Are you also going to try and hire within the city first and then?
Yeah, we do local job fairs, and like what we do is when we start building the store, we'll put up, now hiring, please inquire at this number, which is basically, I'm in charge of all human resources as well. I'm, the legal side, but I also do all the HR. So we will put, if it's permitted, please inquire. So anyone driving on the freeway, a guy around the street that say, hey, this is great, he or she may call that number. That's exactly what we do. Because I don't want someone commuting in 20, 30 miles. You know how traffic is. We sat on the 10 freeway for a good 45 minutes today. We're used to traffic, but we get it. We like people to live locally because they get to work on time. There's a vested interest. You know how it is. They just care more. So that's absolutely what we want because it doesn't really work the other way. We run a shop. We expect you to come to work on time and the like, and it's just harder when you live far away. So that's exactly what we do is hire
Thank
over.
you.
Mr. Menifee?
Yes. Do you own and operate all of your 64 stores?
You bet.
As opposed to franchise?
You bet. Everything
You do.
absolutely owned, corporate owned.
The second question, when do you have an IPO?
You know, the day we have an IPO, I will turn the reins over to my friend here, and I might practice my golf swing a little bit more. 'Cause like I said, I am one of the owners of the company. You know, the recession kind of hit everyone pretty hard. The automotive and retail, we like it privately held because once you go public, you have a lot of Sarbanes-Oxley. You have a lot of public. You triple your workload at night. It's just a lot harder, very expensive, and we flirted with it, but it's not on the table. It's just.
Well, that's my way of saying you sound like you're very successful. So,
Thank you. We're doing okay, but we do it because we just run it like a family. Everyone, you're responsible for what you do. We hire people that care because they like off-roading. They're not just a guy, a couple of months job and then they take off. We just don't do that. I mean, our turnover is like 12%. And if you know about businesses, that's quite low. Because no one wants to retrain a mechanic. We install specialty items, tires, wheels, lift kits. It's all new stuff. We don't work on engines. We don't work on transmissions, nothing like that. It's all bolt-on new stuff. But you got to know what you're doing. You're affecting people's lives. You're affecting not only your life driving it, but my life driving next to you. Trust me, as the lawyer and risk manager, I know. So people are constantly trained, and it takes 6 months to a year before you're allowed to touch much as a mechanic because it matters. So we don't like turnover. We like you to stay, and that model kind of works. And families get to like us, and it's a tight community, quite frankly, in the off-road world, and it is in our business. It's not so out there. Everyone kind of knows each other, and we take care of each other. That's what we do.
Anyone else? No. How long before you think you'll have it up and running?
We would love it. We would love to have it up and running tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen. Realistically, we were thinking I would like to get it open before Christmas. November is what we were shooting for. We have the capital and the resources to start swinging hammers, whatever we need to do, ASAP. There's no funding required. We're fine on the cash side. It's just a matter of getting your fine permission and the building, the building code permit stuff, which we're doing in parallel. As fast as we can do it safely, of course, and things have to be up to code and all that. We would like it open by November. So, was that 4 months? July, August, September, October, about 4. Realistically, it's going to be about November. It's not going to be any earlier because we've done this rodeo before. You think you can build it in a month and it takes 2 months just because rain delay or.
You want to build it right. You don't want to.
Yeah, whatever. You always double your estimate when it takes time. So we're thinking November.
Thank you.
Certainly, we got to get that open before Christmas because we employ a lot of people for Christmas. Sales go through the roof. All of it starts around November for Christmas time. So it's a huge window, and I appreciate you getting us on calendar early because we really want to capture that window. Because if we wait until the following year in January, February, those are soft months for us because people spend all the money on Christmas. So it's very important, Dave, that we get the store open around November so that everyone can benefit, including the city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that all?
Yep.
That's it. Thank you. And we'll fill out these cards. Yeah, very good.
Does anyone else want to speak in favor of the project? Okay. Anyone speak in opposition to the project? Okay. I'll close up the public testimony and open up the commission discussion. Who would like to start?
Well, it all definitely sounds good to me. It's a shopping center that's been there vacant for a little bit, that location, and it's always, as you mentioned, had a hard time attracting tenants. I think it's a great business. I drive a truck myself, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything else, at least not in the near future, so I'm glad to have you guys come into the city and be interested. Thank you.
Commissioner Velez? Nothing? Commissioner Menifee?
Yes, I'd just like to say we try to be business friendly. Certainly when there's an opportunity that you've addressed for something that we need in this area, as obviously you've done your marketing. And so I very much appreciate the opportunity to provide my vote. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioners that it's a welcome to have you come into that facility because it has been vacant for a while. And I'm familiar with trucks and all that. It's a good business, and I'm glad to see you come in there, and I hope you make a go of it. So we're very happy to have you there. So I will close it, and I will ask staff to read.
Okay, there's one resolution which will be 13-5526, but it does also take a motion to approve the planning director's modification, although that's not a resolution. So you can make that in one motion to approve that resolution and the planning director's modification.
Make it a combined motion. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly would move approval of conditional use permit 135526 and add to that the planning commissioner or planning director's
Modification.
modification. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Oh,
Okay. We have a first and a second. All in favor? Is there any other commission discussion before we vote? No? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0, 4, 1 absent. Thank you very much. Good luck. That brings us down to administrative use permit number 13-33, categorical exemption. Applicant is David Lee. Location is 1428 South Montezuma Way. The request is for an approval of an administrative use permit to construct a 368-square-foot balcony addition to an existing 392-square-foot balcony that is 9 feet in height, located at the rear of the home. The total balcony size is 760 square feet. Additionally, the applicant is also requesting to legalize an existing 370-square-foot elevated deck that is 9 feet in height, located in the rear of the yard of the subject property. Are we looking for a motion and a second to continue this to?
Yes, to the 23rd meeting.
Okay. Do I have a motion to continue this to July 23rd? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carries 4-0. Okay, we have a study session for code amendment request for lounge e-cigarettes/cigar hookah. We have the staff director.
Yes. Planning Department did receive correspondence requesting consideration of allowing a business operation of a retail vapor store and lounge, which is attached. That letter is attached for your consideration as attachment 2. The applicant is requesting that the Planning Commission initiate a code amendment to allow for electronic cigarettes, also known as a vapor lounge. Retail sales of electronic cigarettes are currently allowed as a retail use. So retail uses of any legal item is allowed in the city. So there was question was asked to me earlier if we do have some of those. We do have some retail businesses operating that are selling electronic or vaping devices now, I believe. In the city, yes. The letter was submitted by A.J. Bonsall of KISS Brands LLC, and he's here tonight in the audience. He represents the firm that recently purchased the pad buildings at the Lakes Entertainment Center adjacent to the movie theater. They are interested in operating a vapor store and lounge at the site. KISS Brands LLC is a manufacturer of electronic cigarettes and vaping devices. The proposed retail store would sell prepared liquid vapor for electronic vaping devices. The vaping devices are reusable, and a variety of flavors and types of liquid vapor can be used with a vaping device. And Mr. Bonsall is the one that showed me. I wasn't aware of any of this technology, but he kind of showed introduced us to some of the devices and how they function. The concept behind that lounge is that customers could purchase their products and consume them in the lounge area while socializing with friends, watching television, surfing the internet, reading, or just relaxing. Vaping differs from smoking in that smoke is replaced by water vapors. There are other similar uses that it also may be appropriate to consider allowing at the same time. These similar uses include cigar lounges and hookah. We have recently met with a potential business owner who's also here tonight, who's interested in operating a hookah lounge at the Hong Kong Center on Glendora. Cigar lounges operate in a similar manner as the proposed vapor lounges, with individuals purchasing cigars and then smoking them in a lounge setting where they can socialize with friends, relax, or watch television. Some cigar lounges include the sale of alcohol. However, the West Covina Municipal Code currently only allows for the on-site consumption of alcohol in conjunction with a restaurant use. So we wouldn't be allowing, I'm not sure if any of you have ever participated in a place where they had a smoking lounge, but if it was just a lounge that wasn't part of a restaurant, they wouldn't be allowed to sell alcohol in the city of West Covina. It had to be part of a restaurant. A hookah lounge or bar is an establishment where patrons share flavored tobacco from a communal hookah, which is placed at each table. Hookah originated in India, spread to Iran, Turkey, Egypt, and Europe and North America now. Hookah can be found in bars, lounges, and cafes and restaurants. Hookah is usually tobacco-based, but there are also herbal alternatives available as well. So in conclusion, a code amendment can be initiated by the Planning Commission or City Council. The written request is to allow for vapor lounges. However, the other uses mentioned are similar, and it is appropriate to consider those similar type uses concurrently. The addition of these categories of uses in the municipal code will allow for additional types of businesses to operate in the city. This in turn could allow some currently vacant tenant spaces to be occupied by these type of businesses. The item before the Planning Commission tonight is an initiation of a code amendment to allow staff to research and present additional information to the Commission. Staff is therefore recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the attached initiation resolution. And that concludes my presentation. I think that if there's some questions on either operation or how the vaping devices or electronic cigarettes work, Mr. Bonsall, I'm sure, is happy to answer those questions, and we have also someone who's here interested in hookah. They'd probably be more than happy to answer any questions you had in regards to that type of use.
So your recommendation is to ask you to come back with more information at a later meeting? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, the initiation of the code amendment, what that would do is would set in motion staff working, do some research, and then we'd be bringing something back to the Planning Commission for their consideration.
Okay.
In a case like this, yeah, we can work with the Planning Commission, whatever they'd like to do. If they'd like us to bring back information first in another study session, or we can go right to a public hearing. It just depends on what the comfort level is.
Okay. Do we have any input for that, which way we'd like to go?
Did I understand that someone was here to speak to us?
Yeah, I think it might be appropriate.
Okay.
It's not a public hearing, but it might be appropriate to.
Okay, would you like to come forward, please?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is A.J. Bansal, and as the report said, I represent the owners of who recently bought the property at 1240 Lakes Drive, West Covina. The owner of the company is known as Dr. Fresh. He has a track record of, he is a great entrepreneur. He is Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award winner 2011 from Orange County. And he has a track record of setting up and running successful companies. His family used to manufacture Oral-B toothbrushes in India for Gillette, which is now Procter & Gamble. And he came to US in 1998, started from zero as a single-man operation. He built about a $70-80 million company in about 12-13 years, employing about 150 people in Los Angeles, UK, and China. He owned brands like Binaca Blast, the breath freshener brand, and recently he acquired Reach toothbrush brand from Johnson & Johnson with the help of a private equity fund. So this is a new concept. If you want, I can show it to you. This is a device which you have to press the button and you have to smoke, you have to inhale, and it would produce vapors, which is water vapes. Technically, the liquid is flavored and it's called vaping. It's not called smoking. And this is a hot trend nowadays. You might have seen, cigar and hookah lounges in various cities, but now many cities are opening up vape lounges where, people have option to try different flavors right there and then. You can go and try different flavors like strawberry, banana, mango, chocolate, or whatever, and you can pick whatever you like. You have a couch where you can, relax. It's like Starbucks kind of a concept where you can, get together, with your friends and, surf the net, study, and, at the same time you are vaping. This is a healthier alternative to regular traditional smoking because you are not burning the paper you are not burning the regular tobacco, and you are not producing the smoke. There is no odor, rather it is flavored liquid, so you are producing water vapes, flavored water vapes. So you are not smelling, and it's not going to cause cancer. You can take 0 milligram nicotine, or you can go up to 18 milligram nicotine, depending upon if you are a smoker. You can take 6, 12, or 18 milligrams of nicotine, but people are using 0 nicotine just for fun, who are not smokers. So if you want, I can show you how it works. If I'm not allowed, that's fine.
So there is nicotine in it?
This particular liquid doesn't have nicotine, but you would have options to go for either 0 nicotine or up to 18 milligram of nicotine.
I guess I'm ignorant. What do people get out of this? I mean, what does...
This is an alternative, as I said, healthier alternative to regular traditional smoking. So people are quitting smoking regular cigarettes, and they are moving to vaping.
So you're saying it's to help people quit smoking?
I have seen our market research and market study. Traditional smoking tobacco market is about 80 billion, and this industry, this vaping electronic cigarette market is going to be about $1 billion in this year. It's growing by 200-300% every year. People have quit. I have seen many people who have quit smoking and adopted the vaping.
The reason I ask, like I say, I'm ignorant of this product, but I noticed there's been a couple of television ads, and there's a Hollywood movie star, I don't know what his name is, he's not real well known, and they don't talk anything about helping you quit smoking. It's more or less like, it's fun to do, and it's great to party with the people and all that, so there's nothing mentioned about helping, to give up cigarettes.
People don't claim that, from legal liability perspective or whatever, but, the whole concept behind electronic cigarettes and the vaping is to help people quit traditional smoking, which is very, very injurious, harmful to your health, which can cause cancer. There are no studies showing that this could cause cancer because you are not burning the paper or tobacco, and there are no carcinogens, in this product.
But you can have nicotine in it.
You can have nicotine, yes.
Yes, I have a question. I didn't know what vaping was
Sure.
when I read the staff report. And so I did some Googling, if we know what Googling is, to try to understand. And I came across some things that bothered me a little bit, and I thought maybe if I explored them with you, you could help me. One of them is Dr. Mike Feinstein, a spokesman for the American Lung Association, says, people are inhaling some type of chemical vaporized compound into the lungs without really knowing what it is. Last year, the American Lung Association issued its own warning about e-cigarettes. This is a buyer, stay away, a buyer health hazard, potentially. There are some other things that I read about that bothered me. The FDA tested small samples and found a number of toxic chemicals, including diethylene glycol, which is what's used in antifreeze. So I'm hearing these things, and that makes me wonder. I appreciate that. My father died of cancer of the throat from smoking back in the old days, but it makes me wonder if we're moving ourselves to something which we don't know enough about. And that in itself is a caution to me to say, maybe we ought to wait and see what's happening. So, please, respond.
Yeah, I cannot comment on the doctor's study or report, but I can certainly comment on the DEG issue, which is diethylene glycol. A couple of years ago, there was a situation where DEG, it's a chemical which is not good for your health, which was detected in Colgate-Palmolive's toothpaste, and it was made overseas, and many people have died because of using that product. We have had experience running FDA-approved facilities for our previous company, Dr. Fresh Inc. We had an FDA-approved facility where we used to manufacture mouthwashes. We had licenses from Disney and Barbies and Hello Kitty and all these people. We are licensed from Church and Dwight for AIM, Pepsodent, and close-up brands. No, I'm not. What I'm trying to make you understand is that we are trying to set up our manufacturing plant where we would be manufacturing the liquid which goes inside this chamber right here in US. Right now, people are making this liquid in their garages. People are making this liquid in their kitchen, and people are importing from China. We are not into that business. We know how FDA works, and this would be FDA-approved plant, or FDA-compliant plant, I should say, because there is no regulation from FDA as of today. So, but DEG, now FDA has a regulation that every chemical which you are using has to be tested for DEG. So definitely we would be following those guidelines, and it would be an FDA-compliant product.
Commissioner Valley?
Yes, excuse me. I also have a lot of concerns about this. Excuse me. One of the reasons that I'm very concerned is that I did call my doctor, and she's a lung specialist, and she said that she was going to send me a report of how it would affect an individual. And I also called Sacramento, and I found out that the Senate is going to pass a bill, or trying to pass a bill, on regards to this, that there's no regulations. And there must be some regulations on this. I'm very concerned about the effects of people's lungs, asthma. This is something very new. It's very hard for me to accept something like this and vote on it. And it's just another form of a cigarette. That's what it is to me. Another question I had, you show us that little, whatever it is, pipe or whatever. Now, do they have to buy that, each individual? They buy that, and then how does it dispense?
They buy this whole thing, for
okay.
$20, $30. Then this part contains batteries, and it is rechargeable. So you can hook it up with your computer or wall outlet, and you can recharge it. This part is the chamber where you can fill any kind of liquid depending upon your choice of flavor and, use it. So you don't have to buy the whole thing every time. You just have to buy the liquid when you're out of the liquid. But I agree that there is no FDA regulation because FDA is working on the regulation right now, and they are probably studying, the whole concept behind electronic cigarettes and the vaping. So as and when it comes into effect, that's going to make a lot of people go out of business on electronic cigarettes because nobody's following the guidelines because there are none. But what I can promise you is that if you approve it, the product is going to be safe. The liquid is going to be FDA compliant according to their regulations, whatever they have today. All the chemicals would be tested. They have procedures. So whatever chemical you are going to use, that has to be tested prior for DEG, for example, or any other toxins. So we'll be following all those regulations, and as and when FDA.
Is it fair to say that the strawberry and mango taste that you were talking about earlier is not strawberry or mango, but it's a chemical that tastes like strawberry or mango?
It's a flavor. It's not the extract of strawberry or mango, but it's flavor.
A flavor,
Yeah.
a chemical.
Chemical flavor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And those chemicals, those chemical flavors, there are reputed companies where we used to buy flavors, for our previous company, and you get certificate of analysis, C of A. It's known as C of A in FDA language. So you get all those certificate of analysis where it would tell you if the product has been tested as per FDA guidelines or not. So we would be following that as well.
And what age group can buy an e-cigarette?
18 plus.
18.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess you can tell we're very ignorant on this new product and all that, and tonight we're not voting on anything. We're just trying to, secure as much information as we can, and we're going to ask staff to, do a further study and give us more information back.
Sure.
So that's why we're asking all these questions, because it's
Absolutely.
new to us.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. And if you have any more questions, I mean, Jeff can reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to come back, present to you guys, or answer any
Now,
questions.
the one question I have, though, is if you open up this facility over at the lakes, are you planning to have that plus hookah and a cigar lounge there? Is that what
No.
you're asking for?
No,
No?
we are focusing on just the vape
That
vape
would-
lounge. We are not going to sell electronic cigarettes.
Okay.
I'll take that back. We may be selling electronic cigarettes, but our focus would be on the vaping pens and the juices,
Thank
but
you.
no traditional hookahs.
Thank you.
Yes,
Anything
just to
else?
be clear on that, the hookah and the hookah was from a different gentleman who's here
Right.
tonight. You can also speak with him. And the cigar lounge is a similar type use that we've had questions about in the past. So we felt like they were all similar type uses, so they could be grouped.
Yeah, I was just
together.
wondering if they were planning on combining them all in the same place.
No,
Okay.
he hasn't represented that to us.
Okay. Anybody else? Question? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I do have one card here from Dave Stewart. Dave, would you like to speak on this?
He doesn't have a card, but the other gentleman who's interested in doing the hookah, probably, you might want to ask him.
You want to wait for the, okay.
Yeah.
You want to come up, please? State your name, please.
Hi, my name is Teddy Zhou, Z-O-U. My cafe's name is Boba Bear, B-O-B-A-B-A-R. Similar situation to the gentleman that was just here. I'm trying to do a cafe in the Hong Kong Plaza. And right now, I currently own 2 locations, one in Koreatown and one in El Monte, which is scheduled to finish next month. The Koreatown location, I've been running it for 3 years with no incident of any record of violence or any health issues in my history there. It's a good business, very popular with students. So I'm looking to expand to that location to here. So the product that I'm planning on serving is the boba tea, which includes smoothies, teas, milk teas, and also the hookah, which is the shisha tobacco.
So it is tobacco?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. Did you just say students?
College students, 18.
College
18 over.
students.
We limit our entrance to ages 18 and over to our cafe.
But most of them are young college
18,
students.
at least 18, yeah. But we're looking at age range 19 to 25. That's my demographics of the clientele.
Interesting. Thank you.
Nothing?
I do have a question. As far as health hazard postings, do you have any of those in your locations?
We follow local city and also health regulations in terms of no smoking lines, no smoking zones along the outside of the premise, but everything else, whatever each city requires, we follow them. Sure.
Anything else? Thank you.
Sure.
Dave, would you like to come up now?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, staff. I've heard about the e-cigarettes for quite a while. I haven't paid much attention to it in the last few years because I didn't think much about it because it seemed like in Southern California it's just now starting out. But when I read this thing you're having here, and there's been a lot of talk about it, I did some research on it. I just read a lot anyhow. But I'd like to share some things with you that I read is all, and you might have a good idea about it. First of all, it's been banned in many countries. The 2 that I got a name from were Panama and Brazil. They banned it. The state of New Jersey banned it in public places. What Betty mentioned about the state Senate, the bill was put in by a lady from Fremont, and what it's trying to do is regulate the e-cigarettes as a tobacco, which means it's also a tobacco product and it's prohibited in all smoke-free areas. So that would make a big difference as far as places in the city where you could do it, where you could not do it. The bill hasn't passed yet. It hasn't gone to a vote. It may not even pass. Who knows? The next thing is New Jersey did it, and
Are you saying New Jersey and Panama banned the hookah or the whole
No,
thing?
no, nothing to do with hookah, just e-cigarettes only.
The e-cigarettes
Yeah.
thing?
New Jersey banned it in public places, and it's banned in many countries, but they weren't identified except for Brazil and Panama. The city of Duarte put a moratorium on it, I believe it was last week. And I think Pasadena's got a couple in their city. But the main thing is, it doesn't seem like it's all a go situation, because the more you read about it, there's problems with it. One little thing I read about, they said the vapor is harmless, but if you recall, a few years ago when you used to buy carpet, they said keep your windows open for a couple of days, formaldehyde. They said there's a small trace of formaldehyde in that. One claims there's a small trace of formaldehyde in the vapor. So it's not all good, but I mean, there's a lot of people looking at it, and naturally they want to do it, and a lot of people do it. And so this is what I've read so far, and I just thought I'd pass it on to you to give you some idea that everything is not on the plus side. There's some things on the minus side as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I did hear too, and I don't know how true it is, that like in Pasadena, you can use this in your own house and all that, but you cannot use it in public. I didn't verify that, but that's what I've heard, and some other cities have done the same thing. In your own home, you can use it, but you can't go out and use it in public. And it seems to me that what we need is more information. I think that's what staff needs to do, is to get us a lot more information and data so we can make an intelligent decision on this thing.
Well, what we normally would do is, as the next step, if you initiated a code amendment, the next step would be to provide you information like you're talking about from basically regulations from surrounding cities. We might not go as far as Panama or New Jersey, but we would provide you some information on surrounding cities. I already have a little bit of that. I had some communication with the people at Duarte. Duarte allows smoking lounges. So that's not necessarily what the issue is about. They just had some issues, and they're wanting to make sure that the regulations are all covered. So that's at least the information I got preliminarily from them. But I can certainly put together some information on surrounding cities and what cities might allow such uses and what cities might not, and what the process would be in those cities, or what process each city has established if they allow them.
So we really need to get information back both on the e-cigarettes and on the lounges and hookahs and all that.
I think that my feeling on that is that most cities are going to have those categorized together because they're very similar type uses. It's hard for me to imagine a city allowing cigar lounges, for instance, but not allowing vaping lounges because the use is very similar. Or hookah is the same type of thing. So, but I'll do some research on that, and that's the type of information I can provide you back.
Well, I could see allowing e-cigarettes and not hookah in cigar lounges.
We can make that, the city can make whatever call that they would like to make, but just we need to make sure that we categorize these things very clearly if we're going to make a distinction.
If I may, I can see a very distinct difference between something that has tobacco in it, which is dangerous, but about which we know of some, and a device that allows you to put something in it that we know practically nothing about. I see a very big difference in that. You know, my issue is when medical experts tell me that we don't know enough about something, that we should wait and see. I mean, that's what my position would be. Why do we need to do anything? Why can't we wait and see? If we need to separate out into 2 or 3 categories so we can deal with what we want to deal with, that may be a different issue. But I have a great deal of concern about the vaping, having read about it and having listened, I hope, tonight with an open mind, that tells me this is not the time for us to jump ahead on something about which we know so very little. I don't mean we, I mean everybody.
The collective. I understand what you're saying. And I think that we can probably work with the attorney's office to make sure that we have, if that's the decision that the planning commission makes, I think we can make it, so we can figure out a way to categorize.
Sure, we can present a proposed amendment that addresses all 3, and they can be parsed into different portions of the ordinance, and then we can discuss it further. Just to clarify regarding the e-cigarettes with respect to California state law, there is a bill that's currently being considered, and what the bill is doing is not really considering banning them from the state, but it is considering treating them like cigarettes. So as what the speaker mentioned, anywhere that they would prohibit smoking, you would also prohibit vaping. So the discussion, at least on a state level, is not really prohibiting them due to health and safety issues, but rather treating them like cigarettes and nicotine type of cigars and other types of nicotine products. So that's kind of the issue that the state's considering at the moment.
If that's all they have in them. But we've just heard testimony that there are other things that go in that chamber. And so what we've developed here is, in my mind, is a device. And young people seem to find incredible ways to use devices. And so I really want to know a whole lot more before I'm interested in
I think the real
including
issue,
that in the same category.
Sure. I think the real issue down the line is how do you make sure people use those for just non-nicotine products or just nicotine, and not going further with other types of illegal substances.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Menifee. And what's to stop an individual from putting dangerous things in there? I mean, of course, that would be an individual thing.
Correct.
And there are laws against using narcotics and things like that, but there's nothing to stop people from putting whatever they want in that cylinder. I don't think it's a closed cylinder that you can't get into.
Correct, but it is like a pipe. People sell pipes and other types of smoking devices.
Well, we definitely need more information. I mean, that's what we need. So, do we go ask for a code? Or what?
So, yeah, if you're interested in getting more information, I think that the thing to do would be to go ahead and initiate the code amendment, which doesn't presuppose that you're going to recommend approval of a code amendment, but it does allow us to do some research and come back with another study session to provide you with information, especially about what we can provide you maybe an update on what the state is looking at. I don't think in the next 2 weeks or even next year we're going to have any kind of medical community agreement on the health hazards I think that's a long time in coming. So what I would recommend we do is we provide the information, how other cities in the area are addressing the issues, and then we provide you maybe an update on what the state is looking into in terms of e-cigarettes, and we bring that back to you at a future study session.
Just for a point of clarification, we can do that, or we can also just turn it down?
Yes, that's correct. You can do.
So those are the two alternates. Okay.
Yes.
Well, what's the commission's favor? Commissioner Valley?
Yeah, could we just table it until we get more information?
Well, you're asking the information for myself, though, correct?
Yes, can we table
Well,
this
I wouldn't
issue?
suggest tabling it, because tabling it is not giving me any direction. I guess the other alternative you could do is just ask for another study session to come back with the initiation resolution. Instead of initiating, just keep the initiation sort of on the table and ask for more information to be brought back, that type of information.
At a
I just
later date?
discussed. Yes, at a later date.
So you're just delaying it is what you're doing?
Yeah, well, instead of initiating, you're delaying the initiation until you get the information that I'm going to provide to you.
May I ask, Mr. Chairman, that we deal with 3 issues, each of them separately, so that we don't get caught up on any one of those issues getting mixed in with the other 2?
I concur with that.
Okay, I can ask, from my information that I've received so far, most cities would put all those things in one category. But I can ask distinctly if cities do that. And so I can bring that information.
More specifically, what I'm talking about is anything that you want to provide to us to entertain a change to code amendments would be in 3 parts. 1, addressing the hookahs, 1 addressing the cigar,
Yeah, the cigar lounge.
and 1 addressing the e-cigarettes.
Yes.
Yes.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Is that the commission's?
So I guess
I would
that
so
would
move.
best make a motion in a second and
You
ask.
make a motion?
So moved.
Make a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. So we don't need to do the code amendment then? You're just going to bring back more information?
I'll bring
on it?
back more information at the same time as we bring it back. I'll bring you back the initiation request again.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me, sir, did you wish to speak on this issue? Okay, thank you. Okay, that closes that study session. Now we have a study
If I
session.
could just announce it, I'll be in contact with the individuals and let them know when it's going to be on a study session again so that they can attend as well.
Okay. Study session, Code Amendment Number 13-03, R1 Single Family Residential Standards. We have a staff report, or where are we going?
Still writing. On May 7th, 2013, the City Council initiated a code amendment to study revisions to the residential agricultural / single-family residential zoning standards. They also at that time established a moratorium over certain hillside lots. This study session is to begin discussions on the potential code amendments to the RA, R1 zoning standards. And just for information's sake, this would not just affect hillside lots, but it would affect all lots in the city. And I'll go into that more in just a second. Let me make sure we have the PowerPoint operating. So the purpose of this study session is to introduce the Planning Commission to the issues of concern and the process to consider the amendments. These issues have come up over the past few years as we've been discussing development both in the hillside and also in all areas of the single-family zones on at least one of the issues. So there's 6 issues that the City Council initiated this code amendment based on, and I'm going to go through each one. 5 of them have to do with hillside lots, and 1 of them has to do with all lots. So I'm going to go through those. All right, so the first one is ratio of pad size to floor area. And I think in this particular circumstance, I'm going to not kind of go through this real quickly, but allow you pause after each discussion to see if there's any questions, because as discussed, the whole purpose here is to educate, to get the Planning Commission sort of evaluating what standards we have and what standards we don't have, so that they can, so that eventually there can be a decision made, and we're not looking for a decision tonight, but sometime in the future make a decision on whether it's appropriate to look at changes, what changes we might look at. And so this is the first step. This is sort of like Code Amendment 101, right? So I don't expect you to, we're not expecting any kind of vote tonight. We're just expecting discussion. So if you have questions, then please feel free to ask. So number 1 is the ratio of pad size to floor area. And number 2 is very similar in terms of appropriate pad size. So I'm going to take just a moment here to kind of explain the graphic. What we have here is we have a pad, and thanks to one of our applicants here that's here tonight may want to speak a little bit. There's a pad here, there's a lot here, and this is a hillside area. So this represents slope. These are called topographic lines. So this represents slope, and you can see there's slope here. There's also a little bit of skinny slope here. This dotted line represents the top of a slope, and so the pad area is that level area of a property that has been graded to allow for a house to be constructed upon, and it's relatively level. Now, as most of you are probably aware, there are hillside lots in the city of West Covina that don't really have a pad area. They're basically, when you build the house, there might be a little pad area where the front yard is, but the house is built, and we'll see some graphics on that, it's not on a pad area. So the lots up in the South Hills area, I believe, in my knowledge, all have pads. So they're all graded out with pads. Okay, so the question is whether there should be a zoning standard that requires a ratio between the pad size and the floor area, or the floor area of the house. So currently, the zoning standard establishes a ratio between the lot size and the floor area of the house, which in most circumstances makes sense because the lot size is the whole lot, right? And you can use the whole lot. But in a hillside area, you have a situation where you have a lot, but, you're not going to build anything here almost definitely. So the lot is restricted to this. So but the ratio is between the house size and the lot size. So the question is, should there be a ratio between the pad size and the house size? So that's the first question. I'll pause. If there's any questions, anybody wants to ask anything on that? Okay.
I do. The pad is not only level, but the pad is all compacted so that you could build on any portion of it. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, that is correct in a general sense. This is rough graded. They're going to probably have to do some fine grading, so there's some detail work they'll have to do. They may have to recompact here or there, but generally that is true. When they did the rough grading up there years and years ago, they leveled out the pads, and that's where they were prepared for construction.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Number 2 is appropriate pad size. The question here is whether the pad size on the lots, and this is in the hillside area, mostly what we're talking about is in that South Hills development for this one in particular, whether those pad sizes on the lots are appropriate in size or should be larger to allow for level open spaces around houses. Now clearly that's a discussion that you kind of have, we have one and sort of information on a couple surrounding it, but we need to provide you some numbers to get some kind of good feeling on that, but I just want you to understand what the issue is tonight. So that one's more simplistic, I think, and really only affects a few lots probably, but...
Well, you still have code, though, that says how far they are from the back fence line and side fence line. I mean, that doesn't change, right?
That does not change. No, there are setbacks, and as a matter of fact, most of the hillside areas have larger setbacks than most of the flat areas because they're in what we call different area districts, and most of them are 10-foot side yard setbacks, where in the flat areas a lot of them are 5-foot. That doesn't change, no. All right, number 3. Number 3 is number of stories. The question is whether the current municipal code standards for measuring building height and number of stories are appropriate in hillside lots. And I give you kind of a hillside that I pulled out of design guidelines for, I think, a city in Northern California that I was able to find. The current definition, while limiting the house to 2 stories, allows basements in what may appear to be a 3-story structures on the downhill portion of the house. So we do have that circumstance. I think if you go over to the east side of town and look up from Cameron or something, you'll see houses that have, looks like 3 stories. But what's happened there is sort of what's going on here is you have a level that's sort of under, and then you have another level, and then you might have a third level that's here. So this might be a basement, and you see how most of it is underground, and the basement level, as long as most of it's underground, then it can be defined as a basement per the building code, and the zoning code, then you can have 2 levels above it. There's restrictions on uses in a basement level, but basements are allowed. So
Okay, but what's going to dictate the size of that house and going out in 3 stories is also ties back to the ratio of the pad to the lot size too, right? I mean, you can only build a house so big on that pad.
That is, well, the pad, there's no standards today on pad size, but there is a standard on lot size. So you're correct that it's based on the lot size.
Right.
Now, it's also based on a hillside lot, it's also based on, there's an economic thing there that says, well, at some point it becomes not economic to build a house on this steep a slope.
Right.
So, yeah, there is some there's some tie to the grading, and there's some tie to the lot size. There was a definite tie to the lot size.
Do we normally include the square footage of a basement in the square footage of a home?
When you say we, when you go to a realtor, I don't believe that a basement would count as living space.
Okay. But as far as planning,
but as our
purposes and
code, it
building
says
code.
floor area would be, I believe it would be.
It would be.
categorized, yeah.
And you stated that someone will dictate who's the use for the basement. Now, who's going to dictate to the buyer what the basement is going to be utilized for?
There's a variety of ways that can be done. That may be a situation that it's not very clear, especially to a second or third buyer. The first buyer generally knows because they're a lot of times the one who built it. But things like, I know of a situation where, you know, where a basement were constructed where they're not allowed to have sleeping areas down there because they don't have a way to get out of the basement without going through another room.
That's what I want to know. Will the city dictate to the developer that a basement can only be used for such and such a thing?
The city can, yes. Through conditions of approval, the city can. Now, that becomes a little bit difficult as you move down the line to the second, third, fourth buyer, how the city's not normally involved in the second or third and fourth buyer. But those standards still remain in place. And sometimes you can do it through things like CC&Rs or other types of covenants that you
Yeah.
put that on the property so that when they purchase the property, it's right there, you know, it's on the title so that they get that information. There are methods to do that. Okay. 4 is the standards for review, and this isn't in West Covina. Again, this is in Northern California somewhere. I found it as far away from home as possible. Standards and review process for decks. The question is whether the current zoning standards and review process for decks, which the zoning code calls elevated structures, are appropriate. The municipal code, so what you have here is a very high deck, right? And we're going to measure, when we measure decks, it's measured from the highest point, floor of the deck to the ground directly below it. So that's where the point is measured. Now, I didn't try to guess how much this is, but this is probably 12, 15 feet, maybe even higher. The municipal code, West Covina Municipal Code requires that decks between 4 and 8 feet in height obtain approval of administrative use permit. And the item that got continued tonight was an issue like that. So we do have those come up in hillside areas. So between 4 and 8 feet, you're required to have get an administrative use permit, which means you have to notify your neighbors and go through this process through the city. If it's below 4 feet in height, then it's allowed by right. You can do that. If it's over 8 feet in height, the code says right now that you have to obtain a variance. So that's basically, it's not allowed by the code. You have to request to not follow the code to have. We don't have that requested very often, but occasionally we do have that request. An administrative use permit requires the noticing of residents in a 300-foot radius and is reviewed by the planning director at a staff level, unless appealed to the planning commission.
I just want to clarify, you said that the measurement is from the top of the rail, not the floor?
No, the floor, not the top of the rail, the floor.
Okay, the floor, not the top of the rail, because
Yeah.
you could have like a windbreak and it's go apart, so it's the floor.
It's the
Okay.
floor, yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay. The fifth one is common area maintenance for drainage and landscaping of slopes. And again, this is more of a located one because we do have some track maps that were recorded decades ago, frankly. And today, if we were reviewing those subdivisions, we would require them to have a homeowners association and CC&Rs to take care. But at the time, in the early 80s, they weren't, the cities weren't in the same mode. They weren't thinking the same way. So the slopes that are there today that are individually owned today, we would do communally. But the track map is in place. It's already been recorded. So the lots are existing. There are existing lots of record, which leaves us in a little bit of a predicament. So currently, some of the lots have cross-lot drainage, which requires each individual property owner to maintain the drainage swales. So this isn't ultimately real clear here because of the scale that it was done at, but what you have is you have drainage swales that go across this way. And so they move between properties. So, and what can happen is if one property owner doesn't take care of it, then they can cause erosion or buildup of almost like a dam breaking, and then a low erosion potential on the neighboring property. So that's the concern that the city has. So just to reiterate that, swales that are not well maintained could cause drainage issues and erosion. Many of the lots also include large sections of hillside, and if landscaping in those areas is not maintained by the property owner, there can be issues with erosion as well, and also the negative aesthetic issues that come if you have a large area that's not being maintained for landscaping. This has occurred in other neighborhoods in the city. It's become a code enforcement issue, so that's why we bring it up here tonight. Any questions on that then? All right, we will move to The last one, the remaining issue, while it is an issue in the hillside area, but also affects any other part of the city and has to do with parking. We have cases where additions or rebuilds lead to larger houses in single-family neighborhoods, sometimes smaller single-family neighborhoods, sometimes larger single-family or larger houses in single-family neighborhoods. So the standards for covered parking. Question is whether current standards for required covered parking are appropriate. And I have so information on the overhead that shows that currently the code requires 2 covered parking spaces per house. No matter how big the house, you're required to have 2 covered parking spaces. Generally, that's in a garage. There are certain circumstances where it could be in a carport, but most of the time it's in a garage. The code further requires 2 open parking spaces for each house. So each house in the city is required to have 4 parking spaces. No matter how big the house is, whether it's a 1,200 square foot house or a 3,500 square foot house, 2 cars in the garage, 2 cars in the driveway. However, the larger the floor area of the house, the greater the number of open parking spaces are required. So at some time in the past, probably in the 90s, I believe, it could have been in the 80s, the city did look at that and consider whether they should require more parking spaces based on the size of the house or the number of the bedrooms or whatever threshold you might want to consider. But I think they decided that they didn't want to require more garage space, but they did want to require more space, so they set up this standard whereby you're required to have additional open parking spaces if it's 1 additional if it's over 4,000 square feet, 2 additional if it's over 5,500 square feet, 3 additional if it's over 7,000 square feet. So that is in the code today. So if someone was going to construct a 5,500 square foot house, they'd be required to have 2 parking spaces in the garage and 3 open spaces outside. And just sort of to give you an idea, this is a handout that we give out when we talk to people about doing additions or patio covers in the backyard. You see there's a 2-car garage here and there's a 2-car driveway. And that's pretty much the setback is 25 feet, so that allows you to have 2 cars. So that's a very standard house plan for West Covina. There's a lot of houses that are built exactly that way. 2 cars in the garage, 2 cars in the driveway. Some folks will want to have extra parking, so they might put a driveway back here or here, allow them to have some excess open space, especially if they have, you know, things like boats or Sea-Doos, or if they've got an extra car that they need 5 cars. That's what they'll do.
So regardless of how many cars you got in a garage, you still need to have 2 open spaces. In other words,
yes,
if you got a 4-car garage, you still need to have 2 open spaces.
That's how the code reads right now, yes. So, I don't know if there's any other questions on parking. Okay. All right, so that kind of brings me to the conclusion. The purpose of this study session is to introduce the Planning Commission to the issues and the current code standards. An additional study session is tentatively scheduled for the August 13, 2013 meeting. In the next study session, the intent is to provide more options for the Planning Commission to consider. And so that'll conclude my report tonight. You may, if you'd like to, you may entertain. There are some people here that might wish to speak. I don't know, but might be well to provide input to the public if they so desire.
I'd just like to ask the commission if they think they need another study session. Just pretty clear, cut and dry for me. Do you need another study session to go over the same thing?
Well, I don't think that's...
Yeah, no, the next study session wouldn't be to go over the same thing. The next study session would be to look at options or alternatives if you wanted to consider changing.
Okay, I got it. I do have one speaker card here. Eric Scheck for Van Daly Homes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners and City staff. My name is Eric Scheck. I work for Vandale Homes. We're a small family-owned home builder developer based out of Riverside. With me tonight I have Michael Vandale, our Chief Operating Officer. And I just want to say it's been a pleasure to work with West Covina. We're very excited to bring our project. We own 22 lots in the South Hills area, which we purchased in March of this year. And we submitted our application shortly thereafter in April. And we've been working with staff and in the hopes that our project will become a model case study, if you may, to work through some of these concerns and issues that are being brought forth tonight. So we've proposed a couple different ideas and things that we've brought to city staff, and really enjoyed working with Jeff and his team on that. We've made a lot of modifications on the way, even since our April application submittal, and we're happy to make more and help resolve this. Obviously, the moratorium is a concern for us, and we're really anxious to get started, build our model homes, and do what we do best. So I just want to thank you tonight and for the opportunity to speak before you, and hopefully we'll be talking real soon. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr.? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience want to speak on the issue? No? Where do we go from here, Planning Director?
Yeah, there's no need for a vote on that. We just move on to the next item.
Okay, so this is item number 7, study session code amendment request, parking standards and donation drop boxes. Staff report, please.
Yes. And I'm going to go back a little bit in history, and I know some of the commissioners weren't on the commission at the time, but in October 2012, the Planning Commission was presented the number and type of variance applications received over the last 5 years. The interest of the Planning Commission was to gauge which sections of the zoning code might be most appropriate to consider revising, because if I think the thought there is if we're approving a lot of variances, maybe we should change the code rather than just keep approving variances. So that's the thought process that went into that. I provided you some information on the types of activities where people were applying for variances over that 5-year period. We have just concluded the code amendment for pylon sign standards, which was the number 1 issue that we found over that, the number 1 type of variance application submitted over that time period. Commissioner Menifee at the last meeting requested to have a study session of the idea of considering code amendment to modify commercial parking standards, which is the 3rd one on the list. The 2nd one on the list, single-family standards, is not as, there was a lot of different issues that it wasn't as clean or as clear what that there were issues. There was a lot of different and varied issues on the single family. So I think parking standards is a good one for us to be analyzing. There are several different types of commercial parking standards in the zoning code. There are individual use standards like retail, restaurant, schools, those kind of things. There are common facilities like multi-tenant shopping centers, which is what was before you at the last meeting, a request to have a common facility and to reduce the required parking through that. There is something called joint use parking, which allows 2 uses to share parking if they have different peaks. And then there's something called minor parking reduction, which allows for a reduction in parking based on a survey of condition. Staff recommends that we bring back some information on all 4 types, but I think in staff's viewpoint, the main focus of changes will probably be on individual standards and on common facilities, because those seem to be the things that we sort of have the most room for discussion and modification. So we are very happy to do that. We provided a initiation resolution to start that process. Staff has also been involved in attempting to address the placement of something that we're calling donation drop boxes, which have been located in various parking lots around the city. These drop boxes are used by companies to collect clothing, which they haul away and sell or give away. I think most people think these are all nonprofits, but as we found, they're not all nonprofits. Some of these are for-profit businesses. Because the boxes are unmanned, they have a variety of nuisance issues such as graffiti and debris piling around the box when the boxes are full on a weekend or between times when somebody is checking the site. Currently, these drop boxes have been classified as small collection facilities, which is a recycling definition, which requires the approval of administrative use permit. Staff is recommending the adoption of a code amendment to allow the consideration of changes to the code to further clarify the use and or require some type of annual payment as part of the approval to cover potential code enforcement costs. So staff has also included an initiation of a code amendment for donation drop boxes as well. One is attachment 1, is attachment 2. We may try to process them together. It may just depend on how things go. We wanted some flexibility there, so that's why we sort of split it into 2 but had 1 report. So that concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point.
Would we like to combine the two, or would we like them separate, or what's the commission's?
Combined is fine with me.
Well, my recommendation would be to make the motion separately and let staff figure out if we can combine them or not.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion for parking standard. Second?
Okay, and let me give you,
I have an item of discussion.
Okay.
and let me read you the resolution numbers too. I'll read you both.
He has
of
a Commissioner Menifee has a statement or a question.
them. Okay.
The question may have been resolved in your comments, but relative to the parking standards, when I studied this, I got really confused because we're talking about 4 different kinds of parking standards, and I was concerned that in any further discussion, we would have a difficulty of separating out. But I think I understand you to say that we're really going to focus on the individual and the common facilities.
That is my intent, because I think there's the most room for change in those.
Okay.
But what I meant to do there is to inform you of all types. So I will give you information about what our code says on the other 2 types.
The joint use and the...
Yeah, but I just, in my estimation, that we have more room for flexibility and change in those
Okay.
2.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the clarification.
Okay. So can I have, what is the resolution number, please, for parking?
Yes, the resolution will be 13-5527.
5527. Do I have a motion for resolution 13-5527?
Oh, you have a motion and a second. Dario
Okay.
and Betty.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-4-0. And a resolution for donation drop boxes?
Will be 13-5528.
Okay, do I have a motion for resolution 13-5528?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Castellanos, and second by Commissioner Velez. Question?
Please help me understand what this resolution will do.
It's an initiation of a code amendment, so it'll allow us to bring back either a hearing or a public hearing or a study session to suggest changes to the code.
All right.
And I'll try to be a little more specific. The code right now that we're relying on is a recycling code. So I think the general definition fits, but it really isn't recycling as was meant. So we need to look and see if we want to change that or put it in the same category. But if we want to put it in the same category, we got to change the definition a little bit.
Good. Thank you.
All right, I had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries 4-0. Okay, continuation of oral communication. Anybody else want to speak? Dave Stewart, you don't want to speak? Don't want to speak, okay. Commission reports, comments, and miscellaneous items.
I'd be glad to start.
Commissioner Menifee.
I want to tell the staff that I very much appreciate what you do. It's when we get our materials on Thursday or Wednesday, as was the case this last week, there's a lot of material there, and we spend a lot of time studying it, but it really tells me that for every hour I spend studying the material and going to visit the property, I can't imagine the number of hours staff has spent to put together that report that helps guide us through what is and what we might consider. And so I want to thank you very much for the brilliant work that you and your staff do.
Anyone else? Commissioner agrees. I agree too, except last time I was putting the sprinklers and it was a little bit, I had to try it out.
And I'll echo those comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, planning director's report?
Planning director's report. We have the subcommittee minutes since the last meeting on June 25th. That's all we have.
Okay. And city council action?
City council action, right now we have scheduled for a week from tonight, we have the Dryden Lane review.
Oh, the condo?
Yeah,
issue?
the house that's in the kind of the condo setting. And then we also have the 135-unit multifamily residential development that was reviewed here 2 weeks ago.
Now,
those two
they've
items.
asked for a delay on that Dryden a couple of times. How many times can they ask for a delay on that?
They can continue to ask for continuance.
Continuance.
As long as the applicant is asking for the continuance, they can do so.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? If there isn't anything else, meeting's adjourned.